Welcome back to Brush Up Your Game. And today, as you might notice from the background here on Tabletop Simulator, it is the Vulcan Hello. And who could be more Vulcan? Well, actually, I guess everyone would be more Vulcan than Mr. Spock. But uh, it is a rankum of Mr. Spock. Tristan, welcome in. And
Howdy.
howdy. Are you ready to logically rank versions of Spock?
I'll be as logical as I possibly can.
Uh,
Don't know why I should start now, but let's do it.
I promise to be as illogical as I possibly can and go solely based on gut feeling. Uh, yeah, I will say in doing this ranking, I think I had the hardest time ranking Spock, perhaps of all of the rankings we've done, because every
Mhm.
version of Spock felt good and playable.
Agreed. Yeah, I don't think any of these cards are bad, and that's probably the first time I can say of any ranking where there aren't any real bad cards here. So it's just a matter of I think this is going to come down to just more how do you play the game
Mm-hmm.
and what kind of strategies do you employ? Because every one of these cards just fits a different style of fleet.
I I don't know your rankings. You don't know my rankings. I could
Yep.
see this being the video where we have zero crossover whatsoever.
It's very, it's very possible, yes. Which is
That
kind of ironic. The ranking that has the best cards is the one that we can't agree on.
right. But let's get to it. Let's see
Yep.
what transpires here. Yeah, my number six
There you
is
go.
the Mirror Captain, and I do think this is a good card. Right. I started off saying that. Here's some drawbacks. I think this card is a touch expensive, right? 5 points for a skill 7. Um, I do like that you get an action on any upgrade as a free action. That much is nice. So
Yeah.
he's kind of the inverse of Picard in that Picard only gives you an action bar action. Spock is giving you uh, any upgrade as a free action, so you can do two upgrades. If you want, you can re-enable something and then do an upgrade, a crew upgrade or a tech. Uh, Lots of potential here, and um, I just I think it's that I never want to run him outside of Mirror Universe because I definitely don't think that he's worth 6 points.
Yeah.
Yet he is absolutely unique in that he is, as far as I can recall, I believe he's the only captain that would enable you to activate two action crew in the same turn.
Chakotay would allow you to do that.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, you're right. It's pretty rare.
It's so rare, and like Chakotay's just
He's not good.
he's not
Yeah.
good. And this Spock at least feels good.
Yeah.
But then it's like, do I really want the Ox Power token sitting beside my ship too? And that's
Yeah.
just yet another drawback. And um, I don't know. It's just I like him when I play Mirror, and I do play Mirror. I feel like I play Mirror more than anybody I talk to, or who comments on videos. But um, I just there's something that holds me back here.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. And I think I agree with all those drawbacks. And he's higher up, but still not my favorite spot.
Yeah, I get that.
Animated Spock again. It's not a bad ability. It's kind of I think similar to what you say. Mr. Spock, Mirror Spock's ability is somewhat rare. I don't. There's a number of cards that can cancel or prevent attacks
Hmm.
or redirect attacks, but I don't think there's a lot that kind of are the counter spell to that, right? That just allow you to push through. It could be great on a ship that has multiple attacks because it says plural attacks. So if you're doing disruptor sweep or multi-vector assault mode, something like that, all those attacks are going to push through. Clearly, if you're playing in a game environment where you know your opponent's going to be running interface generator or truce or conditional surrender or what have you, that's going to be nice to have around. But it's a one shot, unless you're going to spend more points and stuff to bring them back. It requires you to spend a scan token, so you have to spend an action or somehow get a scan and then still find a way to get quality on those attacks. And I feel like, at least for me personally, I don't run into uh, builds that prevent attacks enough to to feel like I need to put this card on there as kind of a tech card or as a potential counter to that. Interface generator is probably the most common, and now I feel like with Romulan cloaking device coming out and the fact that Romulan chips don't have a ton of tech slots to begin with, that interface generator has kind of been pushed out in favor of Romulan cloaking device. So you don't see that as often anyway.
Yeah, I feel like now my challenge is more, can I actually hit the ship like
Yes.
from my firing arc? And I'm getting ready, like I'm waiting for the Borg resurgence.
Oh God, yeah, no. But yeah.
Because because
Oh, because of the 360, yeah.
because of 360 in range 1 to 2, because
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're in range 2, I can hit you. I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about you arc dodging me. uh,
Yeah.
anyway, that's a meta discussion. But yeah, I like when this card was came out, I remember it being this all like, ooh, that's gonna ooh, because attack cancellation was such a big thing. And it seems like attack cancellation's just kind of fallen out of favor a bit.
Mhm.
And I don't really know why. It's not like the cards got worse. I think it's that other talents came out that were good and got cheaper. And so there's an opportunity cost there. And if yeah, Spock just feels really expensive, right? You've got to take an
Mhm.
action, or you have to acquire that scan token somehow. There's ways of doing that. There's even ways of getting that scan over to another ship, right? But then it's one time, and then you got to make sure that your ship can be super effective that one round. Is it really gonna make that big of a difference? I don't know. I, I I tend not to think that one single round is going to be the make or break between combat. Like, yeah, there's moments, but those tend to be more Dyro moments than, oh, yeah, if only I could have gotten my attack through this round instead of next round. Uh, and nobody has perpetual attack cancellation. So, uh, yeah, this card's just kind of fallen out of favor, and people don't really run it, I guess, is what happens. And I don't know. I never saw the need for this card, and people who did run it, I think have kind of gone. I didn't really need that card, even against the attack cancellation that they came up against. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. I have number 5, Kelvin Crew Spock. And again, I think it's just a testament to how good Spock's abilities are as a whole that he's here at 5, because it's great. You get it's not an action. It's activation phase. You get some time tokens, fine. You get some crew skill, some captain skill boost. Plus, you get a free scan action. That's all great. I think the one limitation is, scan is fine, but it's not not and it's free. It's just not the action you want necessarily. The Kelvin Crew Kirk, if I'm going to spend 4 points to boost my captain skill and get a free action, I want to get the battle station. And then he's also, he's on the flip side of the captain card, which is a far better version of Spock, in my opinion. So
Hmm.
he just gets knocked down for that reason, but he's still very good.
Yeah. So yeah, you're number 5, my number 4, and this feels like we're going in order, and I know not quite, but we at least have some similar thoughts. Um, yeah, this card feels like if he was 2 time tokens, I would have him probably at like my number 2 slot
Sure.
because I really like the effects that he brings. Nice captain skill boost, uh, a free action scan. Who am I to say no to that, right?
Yeah.
Scan's always going to help you. It's never going to hurt that it's there. Um, and you get the talent slot. And a talent slot on a crew isn't a make or break thing, but sometimes it can really help because now you don't have to bring an admiral you don't necessarily want to bring in like Q or Decker to get that talent slot and lose
Mhm.
captain skill if you're already trying to do something with Spock, because you're getting a talent slot. I don't know for free, but at least as part of the card, and
Yeah.
I like it. I don't. I struggle to love it. I feel like I would like it more if Spock had a consistent captain skill boost and then got to do a free scan based on time tokens. I think that would feel more fitting. But that's me trying to reinvent a card.
But he's still very good. I still like him.
Yeah.
It's just Spock is much better elsewhere. So
Yeah, yeah.
speaking of another Spock, the mirror Spock, again, he's a little expensive. If this card were coming out now, I would expect it to either be a 7/4 or maybe an 8/5. The ability requires some planning, right? Because my understanding as to how the ability triggers is it's at the start of the activation phase. So you're going to have that aux token placed before you move. So you either have to get green maneuvers or you have to do impulse efficiency or have checkoff sitting there or something to absorb that aux token if you want to take your normal action. But if you can get around that, you can have some incredible action economy, right? You combine him with Mirror Sulu, and now you're getting potentially three actions in that round. You can double that up with a card like Alyssa Ogawa. I feel like I'm a broken record from last week when we talked about Sulu. But you can re-enable that Mirror Sulu and keep that whole thing going. I think there's a lot of potential there, especially for the Mirror faction to have a captain like that. Um, really fantastic ability. It would be higher if it wasn't Mirror. If this was a Fed Spock, that'd be great. I just feel like he's limited a little bit by the Mirror faction and by the price because you're probably not going to cross faction him for 6 points.
No, not at skill 7. If he was skill 8,
Yeah,
I.
yeah,
Ooh. When you said skill 8, I'm like, that would help Mirror so much.
yeah.
Because Mirror just does not have those kind of captains. And they would really benefit from a much better captain. Oh, we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Fed Captain Spock, the mini Picard, but kind of the two things you don't want as much. Um, I get it. Scan the Vulcan side of it. I understand. The target lock, I don't understand as much from a thematic standpoint. And, we've kind of talked about it. Target lock can be hit and miss. Um, Scan is there. He's also a bit expensive at 4 points. Uh, I guess they tried to pay, or tried to have him be uh, attacks for getting bonus actions, but it didn't feel necessary. And I'm like, I'd still rather run Ducat or Picard, and Spock just doesn't hold up against either of those two.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to run a torpedo boat, obviously Spock is a good choice because you're going to get that free
Fair.
target lock. Then you get the battle station token, and he's a little bit cheaper. So if you're trying to maybe get like a third ship in there that just is overgunned and you want to get that going, and you don't want to spend the points for a Picard or something like that, or more than likely you have him somewhere else in your fleet, then he's an option. But yeah, I feel the same way. I like the scan, especially with Vulcan shenanigans, and then you can still use a battle station to, you're taking away that opponent's at least one defense die. Target lock, I agree that it's a little wishy-washy because you always have to be concerned with, if you're facing cloak, and there are more and more abilities and stuff that just allow you to keep that cloak up indefinitely. So then you have to consider, well, do you want to bring other cards that are going to allow you to get rid of that cloak token or somehow, disrupt that flow, and then it's going to cost you more again. But for a cheap torpedo boat, I think he's a solid choice.
He is, and that's why he's here on the list. He's still a
Yeah,
very good captain. Like nothing's changed about that, uh, but he's rarely like the go-to, especially in
yeah,
Fed captains. He kind of falls down a bit in that regard.
yeah, yeah.
Well, now I'm worried that we get the complete overlap.
Well, here we go.
Yeah, figured that was coming. Um, yeah, so Kelvin Captain Spock. Uh, yeah, just to get a static ability every time you attack to add a battle station result. Uh, and if you decided to take a scan instead, you get a hit added to your roll. No conditions on attacking an independent ship or Klingon ship or whatever the case may be. No, it's just you get a. Uh, I really like that, and I'm willing to pay that fourth point to get that kind of an ability. Uh, typically we see 6 skill with talent slot go for 3 points now, but this kind of abilities make sense at 4 points, and I like that.
Yeah, I love this ability. I had this version of Spock in my top 10 Fed captain ranking. I don't think I had the other Spock in there, but this one,
Mm,
to me, when I read this, I just automatically am like, oh, I'm just going to get an extra hit, right? Because I'm going to get a battle station token. That's going to be my
yep.
plan. And you're adding damage. I think the Federation kind of lacks a lot of crew and captain that uh, add attack dice and add damage compared to maybe some of the other factions. So it's nice to have that. I love the idea of pairing him with a dorsal phaser array. We talked last week in the Sulu video about 360. Did we talk about that earlier? No, we talked about that in this one. I'm losing my mind, David. It's late here in Wisconsin. But the the concept of there's so much more maneuverability with Romulan ships and Romulan cloaking device and having to worry about people getting around you. I've run into that more than a few occasions. So, putting dorsal phaser array with Kelvin Spock, whether it's the Alliance version, so you get the potential for 4 damage for 3 points. That's a great savings.
That
Putting it
is.
with the standard dorsal phaser array, where now that that cost isn't quite as horrendous. I think it is a great combo there as well. There's just a lot of good for this one. It also has a dual mirror faction, so another good mirror captain here. I really think he should see more play, and I should play him more. I think a lot about this one, and don't quite get him to the finish line in some of my builds, but he's definitely been there in the building phase of it. So
Yeah, he's consistently good. I've run him a few times. It's been a while, but I liked him I've enjoyed playing with him every time I've put him on a fleet, uh, because he's not this like hyper threat that results in a ton of focus fire. But if you ignore him for too long, he's gonna keep putting in consistent pain,
mhm.
and that much is good. Speaking of consistent pain, the original Spock, and yeah, he's 5 points, but converting battle stations to hits and taking away a defense die, really does make it hurt, especially when if you can do something to be rolling 5 dice, the odds say you're going to have 3 or 4 hits with this kind of conversion, maybe even 5. Well, you talk about that against a decent number of ships. You're going to take you got a shot to one shot them, if not 2 shots to take them out. That's pretty good. And just to add 5 points onto that, yeah, it's tough to find more value in a single crew than what this Spock brings.
Yeah, he is the version of Spock I consistently turn to. I'm usually going to hide him underneath Genesis effect. It's very thematic and makes him very cheap. And I mean, yeah, allowing the scan action to do double duty like that is fantastic. He would be a great one to put on, say, the Tacumbra with our Kelvin Captain Spock, right? Because now you're getting 2 scan actions to trigger not only Spock's ability to add a hit, so you do have your potential for 5 damage on a Nebula class, and then
Mm.
you're taking away 2 defense dice. So if you're not cloaked, there's a good chance your opponent's not rolling anything, and if they are cloaked, there's a good chance you're going to get some good damage through to their hull. That's gonna, and then you could put well, I guess to Cumbria you have to find another weapon slot, but if you get type 10 phasers on there or something with some reroll blanks, that could be really nasty really quickly.
Yeah.
So he is a fantastic, this is, I feel like this is the card that uh, Genesis Effect was designed for, right? He's your 5 crew guy that you'd love to get a discount on.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't entirely know what to say. We started off, and there was potential for a lot of mix up, and then there wasn't. Um, no, Spock has very good versions, and you could ask me in 2 weeks, and I might put the Kelvin Captain at number one. Like there's an argument you could make for that.
for
And,
sure.
and I don't think you're wrong if you make that argument. I think you might be wrong if you try to put the captain, the Fed captain, at number one. But no, there's still. I make an argument that there are 6 good versions of Spock, and you're not going to go wrong including one in your fleet. In fact, if you don't play with Spock, go grab a version of Spock and try to build a fleet around it or a ship around it, and you'll have a good ship. That that's kind of a good starting point. And yeah, you will do better with starting with good cards, and Spock always starts pretty strong.
For sure. Yeah, the only downside to Spock is it would be nice to have a version of him that would have the Vulcan faction, even if it's a dual Federation Vulcan Spock. Maybe we'll get that in These Are the Voyages. I feel like that would be appropriate. I'd also love to see a version of Spock that has either a Klingon affiliation or doesn't get a penalty for being on the Klingons. That's the Final Frontier version of Spock, where he's the gunnery guy. Maybe that's
Mm,
why he's got a target lock on the Captain Spock because he blew up God basically. So I guess he deserves to do a free target lock now and then.
I guess, yeah, that's good. That, oh, weird but good. That's all I have to say about Final Frontier. Weird, weird movie.
The older I've gotten and the more I've watched it, the more I appreciate it. It is very strange, but there are some very good parts to it. Um, I feel like we should get a Captain Claw and a Vixus and we've seen a few cards like Cord that
Yeah,
have shown us Final Frontier, but beyond that, there's not a lot from that movie. I think you could make probably a whole faction pack out of what happens in there.
I think
As
you could.
crazy as it is.
Well, we need a Cybok.
Cybok, yeah,
We need the John Talbot.
yeah, and I can't think of the Romulan ambassador's name, but I was really expecting her to show up in Tal Shiar, and I was
Catherine
surprised.
Dar, I think.
Yes, yes,
I'm
yeah,
going back on the motion pictures CCG set.
gotcha.
That's how I know I'm off on a tangent at this point, but
Yeah, sorry, I kind of derailed this. This is about Spock, and now we're talking about arguably the worst Star Trek movie, but w- well, probably not anymore. But um, yeah, anyway.
ooh, what do you think is the worst one?
Uh, I I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Nemesis. I probably have to put that at the bottom. I mean, not to say that Final Frontier is amazing by any stretch, but I don't think it's the worst. I think there's some interesting concepts in there. I feel like it it feels kind of like a maybe like a two-parter original series episode. It's kind of goofy and weird. It's trying to be very heavy-handed in a certain message, but there are some good things in there, like the whole concept of Kirk needing his pain. And
Yeah,
the kind of the search for the mysticism and it kind of reminds me a little bit of what happened in the where no man has gone before, encountering weird things at the edge of the known universe kind of thing. So um, it just probably was needed some more time to bake, right?
yeah.
Um,
See, I feel like Insurrection is a really good two-parter of Next Generation.
100% agree. I think that movie is underappreciated too. If you are looking at it from the perspective of a blockbuster follow up to First Contact,
No,
yeah,
terrible.
it's not what you want. But yeah, if you think about it as like a season six, season seven two-parter, I think it's a solid story from that perspective.
Yeah,
Although I think it does get some points off because they cut the scene with Quark at the end. But
I know. I saw
um,
footage of that. I'm like, oh, that
yeah,
was good.
that would
Um,
have been good. Anyway,
yeah. No. So for me, when my wife and I were dating and then engaged, and shortly after we got married, we went through all the movies and watched them. And Final Frontier is one of her favorites. I don't know why. She can't really explain it, and she hates Wrath of Khan.
oh well, okay. Well, I mean,
She
that
she does not enjoy the sacrifice plot in any movie. So a character sacrificing themselves for their crew, their friends, their whatever. She does not like that plot device.
and I feel like I mean, Wrath of Khan, obviously it's near the top for me.
Oh, yes,
But
same. But
yeah, I think for most Star Trek fans, it'd probably be like, oh yeah, that's. But I can see where it is. It definitely departures from kind of the traditional Trek story. It's more militant. It's a little more violent, maybe.
mhm,
It's it's a story of revenge and but again, it's a movie for me that as I've gotten older, I mean, I appreciated it as a kid because it was about blowing stuff up. So I was
yeah.
like, hey, cool. You're blowing stuff up. And I'm a teenage boy, so I'm with that. And now that I'm in my 40s and I have kids and stuff, and I I see the perspective from Kirk as well. He's going through kind of a midlife crisis. He's old. He's an admiral. He's no longer in command of a ship. He's kind of looking back. He's on this training crew, these cadets, and looking back at how they're about to get in. They're about to experience the best years of their lives. Exploring the galaxy and now also realizing his actions as a young man, as a young captain, are coming back to kind of haunt him a little bit, or his lack of action, as the case may be. So I think it has so much depth, and for me in general, as Star Trek, as I've gotten older, I feel like it has aged with me, and I always come back to new things that I didn't appreciate when I was younger. Now it's like, oh, I get that now, or I see it in a different light.
Mhm.
Um, there's so much depth to it, but I can totally tell you, like, my wife has no interest in Star Trek, but if she did, I'm sure Wrath of Khan would be one of one of her least favorite movies too, because she wouldn't like a lot of the themes in there, and especially the blowy up parts wouldn't be her forte. So
Yeah. I
each
just
her own.
yeah, I cannot stay awake through the motion picture. It like as gorgeous as the cinematography is. I love the early let's leave space dock in the Enterprise. That much is gorgeous. But I traveling through V'ger is about 20 minutes too long for my taste.
It's a very slow burn. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean
and
if I stop it partway through, go to bed, wake up, you know, watch it while I'm eating my bowl of cereal, then I'm good. But I
in the pajama pants are like the worst aspect of 70s
yeah,
sci-fi aesthetic
yeah.
that I can think of.
I can't do it in one sitting. It's tough. No, and I get it. Nemesis has aged poorly. It's
Into Darkness too. Now that I think about it, I mean, it's Into Darkness is Wrath of Khan. I wouldn't
redone
say 2.0. Yeah, you
and
can't call it
worse.
2.0 because that's not that would suggest a improvement. Yeah, so I think Final Frontier is definitely probably like the third or fourth worst Star Trek movie, so it's kind of right in the middle for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I liked Beyond. I thought they did a good job with Beyond.
Beyond the Salad, the first remade Kelvin Trek is, I think was solid for what it was.
Yeah,
Um,
they definitely
yeah,
broke the odd even curse.
yeah,
But
yeah. So
anyway, um,
what were we talking about? Spock. That's right.
Spock,
Spock.
interesting character, good in any universe. Maybe someday we'll get a Strange New World Spock.
I would love that. Ethan Peck deserves a card.
I Yeah, and that version of Spock would be yet again different, and that would be fun too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I well, I have other thoughts on that, but I definitely want to see section. I want to see Section 31 stuff, and I want to see Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds for sure. Section 31, I could take or leave it, I guess, but it would kind of add an interesting dynamic to the Federation.
At least with what they've done with Discovery, a lot of Section 31 would get dual factioned mirror, and that would also be
Probably, yeah.
fun.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, I would.
So
I was almost thinking, yeah, it would have to be some sort of like. I know Luther Sloan is an independent.
yeah,
Um, almost, yeah, almost kind of like they would work with Federation, but you'd have to pay some sort of price to do it. I feel like would be the appropriate way to
mm-hmm,
handle it. I don't
mm-hmm.
know if that would be a faction penalty or something else, but
It would be something.
well,
I don't have the answers, but I'd like to see it. So don't know if it'll ever come to be, but we can hope. Folks, thanks for joining us on this journey down the rabbit hole and through the
very logical journey that we took off there.
yeah, um, the tangents of all things. It's all good. Uh, yeah. Until next time, when we rank Akira's, uh, keep brushing up your game. And
And talk about your favorite animated series episodes.
I'm gonna have to look up
Probably
some
not.
titles. I did
Probably not.
watch it. I'm gonna have to look up the titles.
Okay,
Um,
sounds good.
anyway, thank you. We'll see you next week with these. Bye now.